So the question is how this committee came about, how it was formed. So this committee is the Travis County Democratic Party's Policy Issues and Legislation Committee. And so this committee is made up of 2 members from each commissioner precinct. So every commissioner precinct is represented equally on this committee. So in Travis County we have 4 commissioner precincts, Commissioner Precinct 1, 2, 3, and 4. So each commissioner precinct is represented by 2 members from each commissioner precinct. This committee is designed to vet or look at resolutions that are brought to the CEC and then make a recommendation to the CEC on whether the CEC should support a particular resolution or policy issue or not. Does that answer your question?
And how are you chosen?
And so with the Travis County Democratic Party, we recently, this past summer, we formed standing committees. These members have volunteered to be on this committee, and then we capped it at 8 once we had 2 members from each commissioner precinct. In the future, this committee would be each commissioner precinct. So Commissioner Precinct 1, 2, 3, 4 are made up of precinct chairs. And so in the future, when there is a position available on this committee, those precinct chairs in each commissioner precinct would elect a member in their commissioner precinct to be on this committee.
So this is a volunteer thing right now?
Right.
Right. So capped at 8?
As precinct chairs, we're all volunteer. So we all.
I'm a former precinct chair, so I run the county commission, so I'm aware of that process. I'm worried about this process, or at least looking at how this process was done to understand how the people who are now running this thing were chosen to be there or chose themselves to be there. So I'm just wondering how that was done.
This committee was formed well in advance before this resolution ever came to the seat.
Oh, I'm not talking about you guys. This actually me. I'm not talking about the resolution. I'm actually here.
I think sometime in February or March. I think there was a huge influx of precinct chairs.
Right.
And then it was a time for kind of growth and development. And so it was decided to have subgroups to make the work more efficient. So there's an outreach group, there's a policies group, there's a technology group, and everyone who felt that they were interested in a certain area and wanted to help out would sign up for those particular committees. And so then that was what happened sometime in March and April, and then we started meeting together.
Then the body voted on who put the names in half. So if you had 15 people who all put in for it, so the body voted on the 2 people that decided what the committee
I think that your question is, have we been elected to be on this committee? This is a new committee, it's a new standing committee that's been created, and so the CEC is body voted to create this committee. And these members, all of us here, are new to this committee, and so
That's my point, what I said was.
Yeah, and I don't
You
think.
had 15 people who applied for this committee.
I don't think
No,
that
no, that's not the case. That we didn't have 50 people apply for this committee.
It's still not organized, and so I think it feels like everyone who wanted to be on the committee could be on the committee.
You hit the word, I got you.
And by organized, meaning that we've not yet had an election, a formal election, to fill the 2 seats for each commissioner precinct because these members, 8 of us, in fact, I recruited 2 more in order to fill that, to create that balance, are the people who volunteered. So we didn't see 15 people wanting to be on this committee or that.
I think like precinct chair.
Yeah, me too. Maybe. Yeah.
Absolutely, and that's why we are organizing meetings like this, is so that we can show folks in Travis County that we are a party that is grassroots, seeking feedback from the community, and we'll be able to encourage folks like all of you to work with the Travis County Democratic Party.
So some impact that I've heard is that Nobody in the communities that y'all are voting on their future today knew about this meeting today. Nobody. Your Facebook post didn't work. I think it's unethical, as I wrote in my little sheet. I just think it's unethical for you to be voting on something this serious without giving people the opportunity to be here and share their stories that they poured out at the Save East Austin Schools meeting this week. The parents all showed up because they had notice, they had outreach. People actually contacted them in the ways that worked for them. So Facebook, not everyone's on it. Precinct chairs, not everyone actually cares about doing outreach. It leaves too many people out. This is about the future of Austin and who we imagine should be able to stay here, to live here. It's 10:30. It was supposed to start 15 minutes ago. People on the committee are showing up now. Like, this is serious and it's unethical. I know that meeting earlier this week was packed with people who cared about this decision. To make a decision on this today is unethical, and to consider what it stands for and that you are the Travis County Democratic Party, you will be, this will be on your hands. You will be in favor of this.
I have two questions for you. You said meeting earlier today.
No, earlier this week.
What was the meeting?
It was the Save East Austin Schools meeting, and we have an organizer in the room if she'd like to speak.
When I looked at it, there was, I think maybe I counted 30 people there.
I have a question about conflict of interest.
Yeah.
If anyone here is part of the consultant that works for the bond, are they obligated to recuse themselves from the votes?
No, they should certainly let the public know that they are working on the bond. That doesn't prevent them from voting.
But I'll ask, is anyone on the board working with the bonds?
No.
I'm not working.
So, okay, so no one on the board is working for the bond campaign in any capacity. Let the record show.
Good.
And Patrick is our secretary, and I am the chair of the committee. I guess maybe to answer questions that may be anticipated, I was selected the committee members to be to serve as the chair for this committee.
If anyone would like to see the notes, they're available for the elections of chairs and secretaries. We did it 1 month ago.
Can you tell me where we can find those notes?
Mr. Secretary Kelly.
Yeah, so if you, I think we can make that available to you
Can you tell me?
where they are right
Yeah, like, how do we access them online?
Sure. So we put our minutes in a Google Doc. And
Okay.
So, making sure that it's
So it's not publicly accessible at the moment?
not at the moment.
Okay, but could it be? Okay, like widely, okay. All right, thanks.
So are we having a meeting or not? Is this
Yeah.
is this public input time or? is
Yeah,
it
so-
typically?
So let's go ahead and get started. It's 10:35, and so we're going to begin our meeting. Depending on how this meeting should be conducted is we do have members from facilities bond advisory committee here to share with us information and answer questions about this bond proposal. And so I'd like, since this resolution is speaking in support of that resolution, we want to get some answers and more information from PDAP, FABPAC on about this bond resolution. So we'll take some time to do that. And I'm thinking maybe 15, 20 minutes to do that. Sure. Does everybody agree with that? 20 minutes to do that. And then after doing that, then we'll open it up to questions from you folks. As I mentioned, I've got some scratch paper over there so that you can write your question, and if you'll indicate on your question whether you're for or against the resolution, so that way we can make sure that we're getting a balance of viewpoints and discussing those questions. Those questions out there, and then bring them to Patrick, our secretary. And so I want to begin by inviting. Could you tell me your name again?
Sure. Lisa Caballero.
Leticia. So Leticia, if you'll go ahead and share with us, what motivated this bond proposal and,
Shall I do it from here?
yeah, you can do it from there, or if you'll stand up so that folks can hear you and see you.
Good morning, everyone.
Before we get started.
Sure.
First of all, my name is Steve Thompson. And I want to apologize on behalf of our employees. We're not here to waste your time. We're here to see what you feel. And always my purpose on the income that I am on and give a back for it. All that is just a maybe that you reflect the data and not be so confrontational. And listen to what they ask to say about this law. Thank you, Chair. And actually, before we go forward with these Leticia, let me also take a quick opportunity so that we can all introduce ourselves to you, let you know what Commissioner Precinct you're from and representing, and how you can stay in touch with us even after this meeting. So my name is Daniel Stewart Kelly. I'm Precinct Chair of Precinct 126, which is Commissioner Precinct 1. I'm the chair of this committee. My email address, if you want to write it down, is Daniel. And in fact, I have business cards. I have cards that I can give you.
We'll be sure to
Right on the whiteboard at the end.
Right. And then Teresa, if you'll.
Teresa Sam, and so I'm the new precinct chair this year, July, February, so precinct is
Patrick McDonald, Precinct Chair 314, and the Secretary of this committee as selected by the committee last month.
Again, my name is Dave National, Precinct Chair for 117. I have this call as a producer, like, so contact me.
I'm Stephen Weintraub, I'm Precinct Chair 252, and I want to apologize for the lateness. It's actually 20 miles right here, and the fact that it's 5 acres shut down north of the river. So I'm sorry about that.
Well, I'm going to stand over here if you don't mind. I don't want to have my back to anyone. Good morning again. My name is Leticia Caballero. I'm a member of the Facility and Bond Planning Advisory Committee. The short version of that is FABPAC. So there are 18 members of FABPAC. Each board of trustees of AISD appointed 2 members to serve on FABPAC. We've been working for 22 months looking at facilities, every facility in the school, in AISD, evaluating warm, safe, dry. We've been evaluating infrastructure needs, plumbing, roofing, things like that. What you have before you is a resolution on our bond proposal that spends about $1 billion in money that's not subject to recapture. That's a key piece. As we all know, the state of Texas is taking close to, $500 million of our property tax money, using it for general revenue. I mean, I won't continue on with that, but what the bond proposal addresses warm, safe, dry, a lot of critical infrastructure needs that have been deferred maintenance, overcrowding, just kind of looking at all the things that AISD has not been able to address because of the recapture situation that we all know that they've been facing for years. And it doesn't look like we'll get any significant relief on that from the 8th legislative session. So I don't know if we should open up questions, if you want to hear more about it. I've got a lot of information. Our committee's been working for 22 months on all of this, engineering reports, impervious cover, enrollment trends, housing trends, that kind of information.
So I guess maybe a little bit of summary process of how with the selection of the items that are
Well, thank you. Yes, we've developed what the facility master plan looks at a 25-year plan for all of our schools. So you should be able to go in and look at your school and see where it fits on that 25-year plan as far as when would it get its infrastructure needs addressed. And we've tried to map out so you can see whenever a school is ready, needs a new roof, given a kind of lifespan of a roof, or bricks and mortar or things like that. So we looked at what our critical needs are in years 1 through 6, and it's over $4 billion in critical needs for schools that need to be addressed in years 1 through 6. So we know that we can't have a $4 billion bond. So we've had to then look at how we whittle that down to $1 billion so we can be mindful of the tax impact to Austinites, making sure that you're not increasing the tax rate for Austinites. So we took $4 billion, looking at those needs, giving a hard look on what could happen, what we really need to address, and then kind of pared that down to $1 billion. Is that what information you're asking about?
So is that first $1 billion based on the first year 1 or 2? Is that how that?
Yes, year 1. Anything in year 1 through 6, we took a good look at to see how we could, what needs to be addressed: warm, safe, dry, overcrowding, some innovation projects, and then we kind of made the decision on how to tweak it that way.
How did those, so year 1, how did year 1 through 6?
Well, some of them, each school got what's called an FCA score and an ESA score. FCA was an engineering report on, are these walls going to last? Is this plumbing, are the plumbing, the roofs, everything with an FCA score, every school. So there are schools that have very, very low FCA score that are at risk of, something significant could possibly happen if we continue to keep those schools open. Much like the T.A. Brown situation, where there was problems with the flooring and they had to immediately close the school and make some adjustments for those students. So we've got some schools that have very, very low SCA scores and have significant need. And I'll just mention Menchaca Elementary is a good example of a school that has significant infrastructure needs that have to be addressed. So we looked at schools that have low FCA scores, and those are kind of the ones that start to percolate. Also, which is another significant needs, are schools that have tremendous overcrowding. We see a lot of that in the kind of outer parts of the county. Southeast, southwest, northwest have significant growth and overcrowding. So those are things that we looked at as well. So we've got low FCA score, high overcrowding, and we had to make some kind of, give some criteria of how we kind of determine what was in this first bond. Now this FMP is a 25-year cycle. It contemplates future bonds, and once this bond passes, we can look at what's the next phase of schools that are going to need infrastructure and significant improvement needs. We know that's coming, so we're planning and preparing for that.
So how many schools are we talking about AISD?
There's 130, is that right? 130 schools.
We're talking about 70.
Here like Gusco or Chiseo, Young Men's Academy, which is average according to the FCA. You're going to displace 235 students from that school. But nowhere in here does it say where those students are going to be attending school. You all are going to do something.
I don't think we've contemplated doing anything with.
Well, you're going to have the technology demonstration area, right? Am I correct?
Well, the technology dollars that you see in the bond, that is for system-wide.
This is not dollars. The existing capacity of this school is 1,215 students. When this bond passes, the planned capacity is 980. So my question is, where the rest of those students going?
Maybe I'm not following you. Currently, it
Let me
says
help you. Let's go on.
nothing in the plan contemplates doing anything with Garcia other than giving them any maintenance needs that they might need, they might have.
I mean, this is public information.
Sure.
And this is literature that I'm taking from your site.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are questions in my community on where these other children are going to be going.
There's only about 440 students at Garcia right now.
Okay. So why not put that there? Why not explain it to the public?
Well, we
Let's
do
do that.
have some literature that shows that more comprehensively. I think what we have is just like the very highest level fact sheets that we have that show what's in bond for each campus. So that just shows you kind of just a quick snapshot of that campus, but doesn't give you all.
So this particular campus here will not be able to hold the 1,000 students anymore. It would only be able to hold 980.
We're not making any structural changes to Garcia right now. All what we're looking at for Garcia is just what's on that list, would be part of the bonds, technology improvements, transportation, all of those types of things would impact Garcia, but no changes to shrink the size of the building or change boundaries or anything like that. That's not contemplated for Garcia right now.
Okay, well, let me have like almost two.
If I recall
Talk to me like I'm a 2-year-old.
I think
because-
that relative to the fact that we were temporarily relocating some staff there, and so we're bringing the utilization number down to reflect the fact that we're gonna put some staff there to fill up some of that space. And so I think that's what that differential is, if I remember correctly.
I'm gonna say this number going, so if you're gonna reflect staff, could you say you're gonna bring more staff on, correct?
Well, we've got a number of leased facilities that we're moving staff out of to try to reduce some of our costs, because right now 87% of our budget goes to staff. And the state doesn't fund for facilities and things like that anyway. So we're looking at trying to reduce some of those expenses by looking at where we have extra capacity in schools and temporarily relocating staff there. And so I believe we were looking at moving a couple of departments over to Garcia.
Okay, so the existing capacity would be more than 1215, or would it stay at 1215?
The total capacity is 1215, but I think you were mentioning a number of 980. I think that's what the student capacity is with the additional staff relocated there.
Okay.
I believe.
Deidre, can I ask a question?
Sure.
So when I look at the distribution list, when I see schools on the east side that aren't on this list, for example, Barbara Jordan, Beatty, Decker, when these schools aren't on this list, does that mean that their FCA score was too low, that they are not, that they don't have any needs that are being addressed, or how should I interpret that they're not on this list?
So all of the schools will get what's called, there's almost like $200 million in critical needs, and I can get a full detail. It's thick and long, but back to your point, like a full modernization and a really hard look, and let's redo how this whole school is going to be and look. You're correct. Their FCA score actually was higher and maybe fall in a different kind of order of the facility master plan, just based on bricks, mortar, plumbing, engineering reports. So, I mean, I can look that up to see. We put schools in 1 through 6, 6 through 12, 12 through, all the way to 25. And then, like I said, each FABPAC committee will relook at that and see if we need to kind of shift schools around.
So that shouldn't be interpreted as a school closure, since they
Oh, gosh, no.
don't have money.
No, not at all. But every school will get some technology needs met. We've got a technology department that's looking at, refreshing and really upgrading the way AISD is doing technology. So there is that technology number that you see, 55 million. It's for all of those pieces: teacher computers, computer lab improvements, network systems, presentation systems, and student mobile computers. So $55 million, and that's something that touches every school.
And student mobile computers are the computers that the students would be able to take home with them? What does that mean?
Yes, I think so. I'm a little nervous about it because I've got kids, so I understand that to be the case.
Tablets, laptops.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and then the presentation piece, which I think is exciting. It's going to teach students how to do presentations. A lot of us in kind of the workplace, you've got to get up and do presentations, so it's really going to start teaching students how to do that PowerPoint and things like that. So.
And I want to make sure that I'm doing my math correctly. When I look at the money that's been spent on, because I am on the east side, so the east side is certainly what my prerogative is. When I look at money being spent on the east side, we're looking at spending over $250 million on the east side, specifically on the east side.
So I'd have to do the math, but does that sound right? I need to check on them.
include areas that are like more central, like, that are some of our highest concentrations of poverty. Like if you start to look at, Tate Brown, it's not included in that East 55, that kind of thing as well, so.
Anybody else have questions further discuss?
Just as a question.
I'm sorry, could you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Yasmin Wagner. I'm the AISD trustee for District 7.
So,
I'm sorry, can you also?
Cindy Anderson, AISD trustee at large, place 8.
so I do have a question on general funding of the last years. The percentage of the state budget going down to education is reduced by about 25%, as I recall.
It's not 38%.
I was gonna say, it's down to
To 38. Yeah, it's,
But it used to be well over 50%.
yeah, it used to be over 50%.
So part of the real problem here is we've been backing off maintenance because budgets have been tight, and that's the thing we back off of first.
Right.
And now we're having to play catch up.
Right. You live with the leaky roof because you're, classrooms, teachers, things like that's where you need to put your dollars in. And like I said, I'm not a trustee. You all look at those budgets, but from, my 2 years on this committee, that's why we're in the kind of critical infrastructure situation we're currently in.
And about half of the bond issue, a little bit more than half of the bond issue is being drained from AISD every year for recovery to the state.
Correct. And in the past, or, early in, school finance, it used to go to low-income school districts, and now those dollars are being swept into the state's general fund, and so it's not even going to schools.
Yeah.
It's going to the state general fund, which is problematic.
Because of recapture,
Ms.
though, it's also.
Caballero? Ms. Caballero?
Yes.
So, I think there's a little bit of a misunderstanding. Why are we doing this bond? I mean, I understand after working on school finance issues that we have structural inequities and we have serious golden pennies problems. So maybe could you get the board and the public at large a little bit up to speed on why we need such a vast, why you think we need such a vast bond to be passed?
Well, we've had deferred maintenance going on for quite a long time. The state legislature has not significantly addressed school finance in many, many years. We've got antiquated formulas that are, says that Austin's a property-rich school district where we send half of our property tax at half to the state, which I...
Correct.
So
the golden pennies that are capped at, I think, 19 cents, and then the others automatically go to the state into recapture. That's what I'm referring to.
Oh, I don't know. That's...
Okay, all right.
Does somebody... I've heard of this, and I've had an explanation on it, but I'm not strong enough to speak specifically to the golden penny. But I know it's a formula that's used.
So there's a cap that basically everything after, I think, 19 cents per 100,000 goes directly into recapture, and that's part of why we've given back over $1 billion to the state recapture fund since Robin Hood, as we know it, has been implemented. Getting into the weeds, sorry about that.
No notes.
So we've given more, AISD has given more back to the state than any other district, and that's through inconveniences of the law and inconveniences of Robin Hood. So I think that's part of why the school board is asking for such a vast quantity.
How many years has it been doing recapture?
Oh, Lord. Recapture has been, in the modern form, I think has been going on since 1992. It started in the early 90s, and it was district for district. So, for example, Austin could give to an impoverished district in the valley somewhere or in nearby in central Texas, and it was a little bit too easy. So the state said, we'll just recapture everything. Anyways, sorry, not a school finance lecture, but.
No, I think it's important.
So
for people
going
to hear
along that question, so I think at the CEC, Dr. Kruger said there was like 4 or 5 billion in the hole that we are short at this time. And this is going to be the first fight out of that, 1 billion. When do you see see what is the timeline for that future to get us back up to ground level?
Well, we contemplate that we're gonna have to, unless the legislature changes their formulas and there's a big sweeping change, if we're gonna try to execute this facility master plan and bring our buildings up to date because of the deferred maintenance, this contemplates a every 4-year cycle. Looking at what buildings need to be, we need to go to taxpayers and ask them to pass a bond to address these critical needs. Is that what you were asking?
Yeah, I guess until the state law changes, and when do you anticipate the next bond to help more schools? The schools that maybe didn't get as much money this bond.
Or on list.
On the other list, right, yeah. So when are we gonna,
I would say about 4 years. I don't know what that cycle would look like. What we did is took what needs to be addressed in year 1 through 6, and like I said, that's $4 billion. But we didn't think it was we could pass a $4 billion bond. We needed something that was mindful, so we kind of landed on that $1 billion number. And so, no doubt, there are tremendous needs all over the place that definitely need to be addressed.
So, I mean, just because I have 2 kids in a middle school, and the building is super old, run down, the bathrooms you can't even use it. I mean, just run down bathroom. And so, and I noticed on the list there, they didn't get very much, hardly just a little whatever. And so I think for maybe parents of children whose school that is not on that list of things that are to do, you kind of worry, when is it going to impact my kids at my school? When am I
next in line?
So when are we going to see, some improvement in our children's schooling area?
And I guess I would say too that, what we've factored in here is that $1 billion mark was very intentional because that's as high as we could go without raising the tax rate. So that was really kind of one of the leading wants for that. We've also factored being able to layer debt to keep that tax rate stable over 5 years with this bond cycle. So that's what the intent of this bond cycle is. But I think the other thing too that we need to be mindful of is that when we start to talk about really significant maintenance needs, and looking at things like a school like Tia Brown, having to shutter those doors, and having other schools that have very low FCA scores that need to be addressed with immediacy, the bond dollars stay in the district at 100%. Our M&O dollars are subject to recapture. So if we get to a place where we don't pass a bond, and we have to go back and rely on those M&O dollars for those incredibly critical needs, then what suffers as a result? That money has to come from somewhere when 87% of our budget's in staffing. And we really are running a very lean operation right now. We've never recovered completely from our cuts from a few years ago in terms of RIFs. So that puts us in a place where we are going to have to make decisions that are really not in the best interest of our students because we're not going to have any other options in terms of our financial opportunities.
So what you're seeing, this first $1 billion bond, is just really just like emergency critical care. Otherwise, schools are going to close. And critical pieces of innovation that will propel the district forward. So we're trying to be really smart in how we're constructing this bond so that we're addressing the things that we need to do with immediacy. But I think to the parents who are like, what about my school? I think what we also say is that if we're not addressing those needs now, everybody across the district is going to start to feel that suffering, in terms of what schools are going to have to close, what staff is going to have to be cut. Those are the things that we're going to have to start making decisions about. And leaky bathrooms are a terrible thing to have to deal with, but losing those really critical programs and staff are hard things. I think that's an important point for the public to know is that these critical money has to come from somewhere, and it doesn't come from the bond. It's going to be taken out of staffing and our education, our children's education.
And that money is subject to recovery.
Yes.
So I'm gonna.
Which basically means it costs us twice as much to pay that M&O.
I'm gonna go ahead and move this along. Thank you, Leticia, and thank you, trustees. To move along to the question and answer portion of this meeting, I want to begin with, so that we can get this in the record, because I did receive an email early this morning from seems to be a constituent, Zach Schlatter. And so I'm going to read this email. Dear members of the TCDP Policy Issue and Legislation Committee, I'm a de facto registered Democrat voting in the Democratic primaries and consistently for Democratic candidates in county, state, and federal election in Texas, born and raised. I'm a young professional and have lived in Austin for the last 3.5 years. I am active with various groups in the Asian American and Jewish communities, reflecting my background, including coalition and movements, bringing people from these backgrounds together to work on social justice and equity issues in town. I am unable to attend the TCDP Policy Committee meeting tomorrow, and as such, I write to urge you against adopting the proposed resolution in support of AISD November 2017 bond package for the simple reason that it does nothing to combat segregation in our town's education system. Indeed, it is business as usual, more of the same. In that regard, AISD can and must do better and should come back to the community when it can draft a more equitable bond proposal. I stand with AISD board member Dr. Edmund Gordon in opposing the present bond proposal as it entails, quote, doubling down on segregation. As Democrats, you have a choice to stand on the side of justice or to reclaim the mantle of the party of segregation. Too long, I voted for Democrats as the lesser of two evils. In such an intensified political climate as the one we now inhabit, that should not be the choice voters have. We should be able to choose candidates and parties that truly reflect our values. We should have candidates and parties rising to the occasion, to the needs of their communities. Unless and until the Democratic Party makes a serious commitment to racial and economic justice issues as they pervade our society, such as in education, voters will defect. Opting for other parties or staying home on election day, we will also begin drafting and fielding candidates who better reflect our values. You should not do the right thing. You should not do the right thing because of fear or some cold calculus, but because it is the right thing to do. You cannot claim moral high ground over Republicans if you allow the business as usual of segregation to continue in our alleged liberal oasis. This is a town that is losing its black population and further marginalizing its Latino communities. If you believe in diversity and equity, make sure that people get a fair shake from the time they are school children is a good way to start. So I wanted to get that in the record since that person wasn't able to attend. And I'd like to ask if you can address what you heard in that email.
Excuse me just one moment. I believe Dr. Gordon actually voted for the bond package every single time.
That's correct, and thank you for clarifying that. So can you guys address that? Can you address that email?
Well, there was a lot in there.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that, yes, Dr. Gordon did vote for the bond and was a part of the process, as were most all the trustees. And like I mentioned, each trustee appointed 2 people to work on this. I don't even know where to start. Like I said, there's a lot in there.
There's a lot in there, and I think that a lot of pushback I'm hearing from folks on the east side are concerns about that the AISD bond proposal doesn't address issues of segregation, historical segregation that's existed in Austin, and so if you can address that specific question, that issue, segregation, how this bond, how maybe you see that this bond does address segregation issues.
Well, let's see. There are lots of things in this bond. $1 billion worth of things in this bond. It contemplates a brand new East Side Memorial High School, with a brand new high school on the east side. It contemplates moving students out of LBJ community so that you can make space for their health and technology magnet program. It's got a lot of innovation and pieces. I'm not sure, like I said, there's a lot of things in this bond. It does move WASA over to the formerly East Side Memorial High School place. And so I'm just kind of recapping some of the things that it does east of 35. Yes, there's a lot of gentrification in Austin. That is definitely happening. That's been happening for a while. This is looking at enrollment patterns. This is trying to address, like I said at the beginning, warm, safe, dry. There are tons of critical infrastructure needs all over the district, and you know, I'm really not sure what else to say about what's in this bond. I'll let you all kind of say more about what I'm missing.
One question, so what is the percentage of underserved children and children of color? What is the percentage of them getting into LASA? Since that's going to be a new East Side school.
Yeah. And so we implemented new admission standards for LASA, and what we've seen this year, I'm trying to remember, do you remember the percentages of
I
growth?
believe the incoming freshman class is now 54% minority. So for the first time, it's flipped from majority white to majority minority. And that was just with the initial changes made to the admissions rubric that placed some different weights. I think it's something that the administration and the board want to continue to massage. One of the biggest challenges we have with respect to LASA is that when you look at the demographics of the district as a whole, which is what ideally that would mirror, only about 8% of the applicants are Hispanic and 3% are African American. And so it's going to be very challenging to match the district's demographics unless we can increase those applications.
So what is the application process?
Well, one of the challenges too that we had in the past that we also instituted a new policy for had to do with a common application. Because before, we have a wide variety.
What is a common application?
Okay, so it's kind of like for the state of Texas, where you fill out one application and it goes to a number of schools. In the past, if you wanted to apply to, say, McAllen Fine Arts Academy or LASA or one of the middle school programs, you had to fill out a separate application for each one. And I believe it was last year also, either last year or the year before, that for middle school programs, there's a common application and it was available in 2 languages. We'd like to see it in more, as well as schools providing additional support to those campuses that typically don't have students that apply. And I think there's still some work to be done where we could perhaps provide weights for sort of sending schools, like say for example for LASA, if you don't see representation from certain middle schools applying or getting in, that you could increase the weights to provide some of that balance. So there's still things that we need to look at, but there have been some changes made over the past couple of years, like I said, that have sort of culminated this first freshman year with a very different set of demographics, and we hope to continue to see progress. But one of the things that we're absolutely going to have to do is increase the number of applications from students of color, because until we do that, it's going to be really, really hard to mirror the district's demographics, and so we've got to do a different kind of outreach to make that happen.
I think the good point, though, is that last year was the first year where we had applications from every middle school in the district, so into LASA. So that was a good first step for us, but I think we're all mindful of the fact that this is just a first step in the process, and this is something that the entire board has been very supportive of continuing our efforts and really bolstering those efforts. We've also significantly increased our outreach to all of our middle schools, particularly middle schools that have been historically underrepresented in our magnet programs. So those are things that we've really doubled down on, are really working hard to try and increase that enrollment, and that's very much what we want to see is a reflection of all of our middle schools in our magnet programs.
And you have to understand too that of the 130 campuses, I think we're up to about either 77 or 79 Title I schools, and that's not even based on what would qualify at the federal level, but that's sort of like the maximum in terms of how we can allocate funding. There are a lot of other schools that would qualify at the federal level for Title I funding if there was more funding available. And so that's 79 out of 130, and I'm guessing another 24 more. You're Lamar Middle School, Austin High School, schools like that don't receive Title I funding, but actually have significant percentages of economically disadvantaged students too. And so we really do have kids on every campus and every classroom that are high needs, whether they're English language learners, special education, economic disadvantage, you name it. It's a majority, minority, high needs district, which is why the funding formulas are so unfortunate for us.
Go ahead. So help me find, because I'm not an educator, what is the benefit of not having the liberal arts division on every campus of AISD, besides just that one? That's the first question. The second question, well, go ahead and answer that.
Okay, so I would say the easiest way to explain it is economies of scale. You have a lot of students that attend LASA that start high school with all of their high school math completed. And so when those students are spread out over 13 different high school campuses, you don't necessarily have the minimum requisite number of kids in one place to make a class, to be able to provide an academic curriculum that meets the needs of those kids. But there's, advanced academic courses at every campus. There's dual credit classes at every campus. Starting this year, we're adding 3 new early college high schools, and so there'll be a total of 6 where students can graduate with their associate's degree at the same time as their high school diploma. And so there are advanced academic opportunities at every campus, but there are some unique to LASA that you need to have the students in one place to be able to make those classes happen.
Then you had mentioned that you all working on some changes. What changes have you made or that you're working on as far as
You're talking about
the admissions?
The admissions. I don't know what they're working on for this year yet. We, I think, just got the data on, the students that are confirmed to attend, because so once the school year starts and that levels out, once, you're a few weeks in, we'll be able to take a look at then where are we still missing, what kind of tweaks do we need to make. And it's the kind of thing where you really have to think through it so that you don't create another unintended consequence. And you want to make sure you make changes in the right way that are sustainable, that are going to actually drive the diversity numbers that you're looking for. So the administration makes those recommendations to us, and then we'll approve it. And typically those things get approved in the fall for the following school year.
Okay, so basically the admissions they're still the same right now until those changes.
As they were last year, yes.
And we changed the admissions rubric last year.
And the students that are located at the alternative center on the ALC campus, I was noticing in the packet that you didn't know where those students were going just yet.
That's up to Dr. Cruz.
Yeah, the administration's looking at a couple of different options, perhaps doing a north and a south location. There's a couple hundred kids at any given time, and recently they seem to come from a handful of schools, and so they're looking at a couple of geographical locations. It's that's one of those facilities too that's in pretty poor condition, but it also houses an after-school program for the neighborhood kids and some other things that we're going to have to make arrangements for in order to get them out of a building that's not really ideal for educational purposes and safe at this point in time.
So because it amazes me that a facility in such poor condition, I guess because these kids are supposed to be bad actors or have some type of shortcoming, that we can put them in that type of environment and for it to be an after-school programs to be held there. And this facility, according to the FAC, is very bad and very terrible, but we're housing children there.
Right.
You should ask what their academic day looks like.
Great question.
Questions from the audience?
Ah, that's a great question, just to think about.
And
They're being asked the question, though. No one has heard.
how can you have a package? And I guess that's where I am, and we don't know where students are going to be at. I mean, I understand infrastructure, and I know we need money to repair infrastructure. I know we're capturing funds. I understand all of that. But if we're not going to meet the needs of the people, then we're in some pretty bad shape right now. We can't meet the needs of the people. And it would seem to me that when you put a package together, that you should know every facet of it to be able to answer every question. And there's some questions that cannot be answered, especially by the students, no matter who they are, what color they are. They need to be served.
Absolutely.
And that's you all's position, regardless what district that you represent. You need to treat the people's needs as holy, because ultimately these children are our future. And we have to make sure that they get well educated and that they have the things they need to keep going. When you tell me that we sending all our kids to ALC, That's the first thing. That's a battle I had a long time ago with that, with the school district, okay? And now you're telling me that, hey, you know what? We don't know where we're gonna put them. That's up to somebody else that is not represented in this packet.
I think it's too, looking at the model that we have at ALC, and I don't personally believe that our ALC model is what it should be. We've got a significant overrepresentation of children of color, particularly boys of color in the program, and extraordinarily significant overrepresentation of special ed students in that program. It's simply not serving the needs of those students, and it's something that we need to make some hard changes on. So I don't see that we're going to preserve the exact ALC model and just move it somewhere else. Instead, we've looked at and have actually made great strides in implementing restorative justice practices in several of our many of our campuses, focused very heavily on social and emotional learning. So trying to address the needs of those students in a way that isn't punitive, but rather meeting the needs of the whole child throughout their educational process, meeting disciplinary actions with restorative justice practices so that the children are coming away in a better place rather than just removing them from their campus. So those are things that we're really looking to implement to change the model of how we're addressing behavioral challenges or disciplinary challenges with our students. So I don't think we're in a place where it's just pick up ALC and move it somewhere else and where's it going to go. I think we're in the process of how are we going to restructure that program in a way that better benefits the needs of the students.
And in the spring, Dr. Cruz hired a new director of alternative education, which was encompassed all K through 12 in terms of how do you redesign that to keep kids in the classroom as often as possible, because obviously if they're not in the classroom, they're not learning. And so that director is supposed to be giving us a presentation, I believe, in the near future as to what that redesign looks like. That does make use of the restorative justice programs more heavily as opposed to an alternative education model that does not provide a whole lot of flexibility. They've also been working on revising the student code of conduct. It's very complex, and in fact, it's stricter than what the state requires. And again, our focus is trying to keep kids in the classroom and keep them learning, but also support the teachers and provide additional professional development on classroom management and things like that as well. Really taking a look at where the kids coming from. Are there teachers in particular that really struggle with classroom management, and then trying to attack it both from the restorative justice as well as the professional development side.
Thank you. We're going to go ahead and move on to that.
Can I just point something out, Mr. Ross? And I've done I did 2 terms at the ALC when I was an AISD student. There's a lot that's dictated by law about you must remove students who fall under so many categories, or, for example, committed a felony or such and so. So we're not just, I'm not associated with the school board or the district, but there's an awful lot that is out of the AISD's hands that's dictated by law, particularly with the alternative learning. Like, the students are mandated to be taken out of their home school, as we called it at the ALC. So,
Thank you.
I just want to...
No, thank you.
Well, sir, I'm trying to clarify.
I understand what you're trying to clarify, and I respect that. I've been a cop for 22 years retired, so I understand what the law says, and there's some laws that definitely need to be changed, okay? I don't care what law that they committed, what kind of law they broke. To put them in a facility that is not a good facility for them to be in, regardless if they've committed a crime, is not good. We're here to talk about the infrastructure of these schools today and what this bond is going to do to improve those infrastructures. And you're going to tell me because they committed a felony or crime, which some of these crimes at LBJ, there are children that cannot go to the second floor. If they go to the second floor, they get a ticket for criminal trespassing. That's a criminal offense. So you're criminalizing kids of color. And then you want to remove them from that school and put them in a less school that does nothing. Okay?
I'm not validating that. I went through the process twice myself. The ALC is a personal issue for me, and sir, and I don't have happy feelings about it. Okay? I'm not defending the ALC. at this time. 'Cause
Okay. As long
I
as,
think what I heard was that the teachers there, the staff there are forced by law to do things that maybe are discriminatory.
and that's not my conversation. And I want everybody to know that's not my conversation. I understand that you're regulated to do certain things. Like a police officer, whether I want to make an arrest or not, I have to make that arrest. What I'm saying is the conditions that you place that person in could be better than where you
You're talking about
place.
infrastructure.
I'm talking about the infrastructure. I'm not talking about anything else right now. So when you pass a bond that tells me that you want me to vote on a bond that doesn't tell me where you're gonna put these children,
That's important to you.
that is a problem. Because they're already in some bad areas,
Right.
just because of who they are and what they've
So I
done.
think, sounds like we.
So that needs to be inclusive in this bond. I don't know how you can put anything together and not worry about the needs of the children, all children.
And two, the bond is what we're asking for dollars for construction and projects. The bond doesn't necessarily showcase what our plans are for integrating programming, for restructuring alternative learning programs. The bond doesn't show that. The bond is a document that shows you what we're asking for money for construction projects. So I think it's unfair to expect that the bond is going to showcase an entire plan for desegregation or an entire plan for alternative learning programs, because that's really not part of the artifact of that particular ask. So I think that there are other things that I would love to have the opportunity to talk to you about more that do talk about how we're going to implement those types of programs and those types of opportunities within the district, because it's a huge animal and this is just one piece of what we need in terms of.
And I understand that and I look forward to that conversation. But when I look at the bond, I look at the east side, it's going to be fixed up for lots. When I look at ALC, it's going to be fixed up because you're moving those students over to ALC. Because now you're going to fix it up, okay? So there is some things in here that show where you're trying to do exactly what I'm saying, but there's also some things in here that show some disparities. I think they really need to be looked at. I do. And I think, you just don't owe it to me, but you owe it to the people.
Because this is a bond proposal, of course, the idea of the bond proposal is to raise money, right? So this is an effort to raise money, but the conversation is still ongoing, right? Great. So let's go ahead and move on to questions.
I'd like to make a proposal. Sorry, I don't think I'm allowed to do this, but it is, we have like 2 minutes before the meeting ends. So, and there was no opportunity for public input, and
We're
people
moving to
have,
that. We're moving to that right
yeah,
now.
but people have to go. So I'm just saying, like, it is 11:30 in like 2 minutes. So are you only going to give people like a second to talk or what?
No, we'll take, I think that we got started at 11, well, we got started at 11:35, or I'm sorry.
Yeah, 10:30.
And it's now,
11:30.
yeah, 11:30. So, how much longer do you guys?
The room is scheduled for an hour.
Right.
It appears there is still an enormous amount of public input on this matter. There's a lot of prepared questions, and we didn't really have a set agenda. Public comment has taken over, and there already was an allotted time for public comment. So at this time, in the name of transparency, I think we should reschedule at another location on a date that will be posted, so that everyone, including members
All of
the
these people who
press,
couldn't be here today? Yeah.
can have their say. We really have not started the pile of questions yet, and I want to let you guys.
Is that okay for everyone? Is some people here wanted to say something today, or would you like to have another opportunity?
And so I think actually, Teresa, that Patrick is moving to.
So moved. Do I have a second from a member of the board?
I'll second that.
I just want to make sure that people who made it here today won't make it to the next one.
Thank you, Teresa. I really appreciate that. Is that the case for anybody here that?
That came today and
One came
can't
today.
make another time?
Have you picked the date for the next meeting?
So we would, I would, looking at the calendar, I would say that we would be scheduling this for the 19th. so 2 Saturdays from now.
That would be acceptable. Do we really have a choice? Well, we can,
I mean, public comment should have
Comment
started after the written comment, and then there's a lot of passionate feelings from members of the board, members of the public. So, I mean,
Otherwise,
in the interest of letting everyone, in the interest of transparency, I think we should postpone. So, because everyone in this room, it appears, has a lot to say and a lot to question on this matter. So, yes, you have a choice.
actually, members of the audience do have a conflict that day.
Okay, we can't, the TCDP Policy Committee cannot accommodate every individual in Travis
We
County.
still have 5 minutes.
yeah, so do you have a question that you, is it?
No, I really don't have a question, I have a statement.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I represent a group of East Austin parents
Is
that
this,
we held the Save
Save Our
East Austin Schools, yes,
Okay.
meeting this past Wednesday evening, and we basically have several concerns. We've drafted a resolution to share that with you that you
Okay.
can read. I will submit it via email so that you have it officially. And basically, their concerns are that this bond is not equitable, even though AISD has been having that conversation for several years now. It's one thing to talk the talk, but it's quite another thing to actually walk the walk. And we don't see that this bond has any type of equity for any of the East Austin schools or Northeast Austin schools. There's a couple of things that I want to point out.
I'm sorry, before you continue, can you elaborate on that? Because I'm hearing that a lot, but I'm not hearing where you see it.
I'm heading there.
Okay, thanks.
So when they talk about that every single school is going to receive some amount of money in the bond, yes, that's true. However, you need to look at, there's going to be some schools receiving something like $200,000, and then other schools receiving $30 million or more. So there's a huge difference there, and I can tell you that most of the schools that are on the lower end of the spectrum are receiving around the $200,000 range. Now, when you talk about East Austin schools, you're talking about
Sorry, real quickly, lower end of the spectrum, meaning
the $200,000 bond amounts
that they're what?
that they're receiving through the bond,
But you said.
if it were passed.
That the lower end of the spectrum, that they're, did you say they're on the east side or what?
Yes,
Okay.
East and Northeast Austin.
Okay.
Yes, and Southeast also. So when you talk about a school like Eastside Memorial High School, there's several things that you need to know. First of all, they're asking to move it over to the Alternative Learning Center. Many people do not know that the Alternative Learning Center is actually sitting on top of a landfill. A lot of people also don't know that landfills can actually cause a lot of breathing problems and asthma problems to the people who are living inside or on top of the landfill. I have a letter from a principal from 2006 for Wynn Elementary telling her students and staff that their school sits on a landfill, and I have testimony from parents saying that their children have developed severe breathing problems because they attend that school. So my main concern is that not only has Eastside Memorial been brought into this bond to move it to accommodate the loss of students, but they're wanting to move it to the Alternative Learning Center when, like the man said from the table, it's half condemned. So obviously they're going to have to tear that building down, but it's also sitting right across the street from the Booker T. Washington projects. And I don't want to say anything negative about that, but I will say that as a mother, it concerns me that they have 24/7 police protection driving around the neighborhood. That's not a great place to put teens. I will say that. The enticement is that it's sitting right across the street from ACC Eastview. Well, why haven't they partnered with them before? So we have a lot of concerns, and I also want to say that another really important piece is that the Code Next plan that's being looked at by the city right now actually does not take into account that these schools in East Austin are up for sale. Code Next is saying that they want more housing built around the 6 schools that have been put up on the market. And so what that means is if they end up getting sold by AISD, very soon in the next few years when those families move into those neighborhoods, AISD is going to be in the position of having to build new schools again. Now, another thing that's really going on is that they're losing a lot of students to charter schools. And it's these types of decisions that are being made that are causing that loss. Basically, I'll end with saying that these parents from East Austin are organizing and reforming a political action committee because we are against the bond. We don't feel that it's equitable at all, and we wanted to be at the table for this conversation, and we're neglected from that.
Well, thank you for being here, and I'm glad that you've been able to have an opportunity to share with us and present those views. How would you feel? What does this bond need in order to become more equitable from your organization's perspective?
First of all, the consultant that created the majority or made the majority of the recommendations is not even from Austin, so he has no clue, or they have no clue about.
Who is that consultant?
I don't know.
What, AECOM?
Okay. AECOM?
AECOM?
Oh, yeah, I saw that on the
engineering firm that did all the engineering survey of the campuses.
Yeah, and so they didn't know, the neighborhoods of the schools, or the school itself. They came in and did their evaluations during summer months when the schools were empty, so you can't really get a grasp of how kids and staff use that school by an empty building. And they have a conflict of interest. They've been out promoting this bond, promoting this resolution today, when they should really, be a neutral party and stay out of it. They're from another city. They're not really informed about Austin, and a lot of the recommendations that they've made reflect that.
Ma'am, I'm curious how. That's a serious charge. How is AECOM promoting a bond? I mean, I think that would be alarming. So,
did they write the bond today?
No.
The resolution?
I don't know who's.
No. This resolution came from your organization.
FABPAC.
Okay, because I was told that it was written by the consultants.
No, ma'am, an engineering firm, they just made it, as I understand, and I'm not associated with either. Mr. Tomlinson,
That resolution that you're debating was written by Fred Cantu.
Oh, Fred Cantu, of the president of the
South Austin Democrats.
And the vice president of the Tejano Democrats.
And it had influence with FABPAC.
And can I just say to the engineering team that did all of the, evaluation, you're right, they did go in the summer months to not disrupt classroom learning. They have to get on the roofs, in the crawl space, into the walls, and look at that from an engineering and structural perspective. I'm not an engineer, a structural engineer, but that is the reasoning behind. And certainly you can grasp more information once school is in session, but the bulk of their work happened in those summer months so that they could have access to all parts of the school.
So, does anybody else have any other questions for East Austin Save Our Schools?
Mm-hmm.
And ma'am, for the record, so I'm recording the minutes. What's your position at Save East Austin Schools?
I'm one of the founding members.
Founding member, and what's your name, ma'am?
Monica Sanchez.
Monica Sanchez. All right, thank you.
So I think if you cannot make it to the next meeting, if you email to one of us, then we'll incorporate these.
And this resolution, this amendment that you have for this resolution, you've looked at the resolution, and this would fit in to that resolution?
No, it's completely against that resolution.
Okay, so then it wouldn't be an amendment to this resolution.
No.
It's
You're submitting that your group is opposed.
Yes.
Can I ask, does your group have an alternative proposal?
We want to be included in the discussion to begin with.
And that wasn't the case?
No.
In fairness, for the TCDP committee, we're having a discussion about it right now, and we're rescheduling. I just want to point that out. I mean,
right.
But what you mean is you want to be included in the FABPAC discussion, right?
Right.
Yeah.
FABPAC's been working on this for 22 months, and each trustee appointed 2 people. So tell me who your trustee is.
Matthias.
Who? Who's that?
Matthias.
Okay, so he's got 2 members of the ORCA.
How did they get picked?
Each trustee chose
We never got informed.
Jamie or Dr. Mathias did what each trustee did 2 years ago in choosing 2 people to serve on the committee. They've been active, and we've had multiple community engagement meetings all throughout the district.
And these members that are selected by the trustee would be selected in their districts, and their trustees from the
Yeah,
trustees.
it's Holly and, who's the other trustee? Who's the other? Gabe Estrada.
Okay.
So, I'm just being in the name of transparency that each trustee has 2 people appointed to.
And so there was a motion to postpone vote on this resolution, and it was seconded by Teresa. And so, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Unanimous.
And so that's a unanimous vote to postpone. And is everybody okay with the 19th being our date that was scheduled for the next meeting?
Tentative reschedule for the 19th. Chair Segura Kelly, could you inform the audience of a way that you will let the public know and members of community groups such as Absolutely. Schools?
Yeah, and I appreciate that feedback, and I see it in a couple of questions here about how the public was informed. So I'll make a commitment not only to inform the public about our meeting electronically, but also via the statement.
And maybe it would, as a TCDP committee, we'll go on our next committee meeting will go on the TCDP calendar, which is a Google calendar available.
And this meeting was on that calendar.
Correct. I just want to inform members of the public and whoever is watching on the stream right now where they can find.
A lot of people, yeah. So, yeah.
Perfect. Well, we look forward to their input. Okay, time is 11:40.
It is, and so I'll go ahead and call this meeting to adjournment.